Lady Beatrice dragged Julian into the nursery while he screamed for his mother. Nathaniel stood between Helena and the staircase, holding a newly signed guardianship order. "You have filled his head with fear," he accused. "Until a physician declares otherwise, Beatrice will raise him." Julian's fingers slipped from Helena's hand. Beatrice pulled him backward with such force that one of his slippers came off and tumbled down the steps. "Mama!" he cried. "Please don't let her lock the door." Helena lunged forward, but Nathaniel caught her by the arm. "Enough!" That single word silenced the servants gathered below. Helena looked from her husband's rigid face to the document bearing his signature. Only yesterday, she had been Julian's mother in every legal and practical sense. Now Beatrice had authority over his rooms, his lessons, his physicians, and every servant permitted near him. The brass nursery key hung from Beatrice's waist like a trophy. Helena forced herself to remain calm. "Nathaniel, our son has never feared that room before. Something happened in there." "What happened?" Beatrice said from the landing. "Is that you taught him to distrust everyone except you." Julian twisted in her grasp. His face had gone white, and his eyes remained fixed on the key. "No medicine," he whispered. "I'll be good, I promise." Helena heard him. So did Nathaniel. For one brief moment, uncertainty passed across the Duke's face. Helena seized it. "Ask him what medicine he means." Beatrice's fingers tightened around the boy's shoulder. "A harmless sleeping tonic. Dr. Wycliffe prescribed it because Helena's lessons have made him restless." "My lessons?" Helena stared at her. "Reading and arithmetic do not make a child wake screaming." "No," Nathaniel said coldly. "But teaching a 6-year-old that everyone intends to control him might." The accusation struck deeper than Helena expected. For 7 years, she had transformed empty cottages on the eastern boundary into a school for tenants' children. She had taught Julian beside them, believing a future duke should understand the lives of those who depended upon him. Nathaniel had once admired her for it. Then Beatrice returned to Blackmere after the death of her husband. Within months, Helena's independence became disobedience, her intelligence became manipulation, and Julian's affection for her became evidence of unhealthy influence. That morning, Nathaniel had signed away her maternal authority without allowing her to summon a solicitor. Julian struck the nursery door from inside. 3 knocks. A pause. 2 more. Helena's breath stopped. It was the emergency signal she had taught every child at her school. A silent request for help when speaking might place them in greater danger. She stepped toward the stairs. Nathaniel blocked her again. "He is calling for me. He is throwing a tantrum. No, he is warning me." Beatrice pushed Julian fully inside. Before closing the door, she smiled down at Helena. "You see threats everywhere, because you cannot bear to surrender control." The lock turned. Helena looked at Nathaniel. "If you keep me from him tonight and something happens, that choice will be yours." His jaw tightened. "Do not threaten me in my own house. I am asking you to behave like his father." The words landed before Helena could soften them. Nathaniel's expression changed. Not to concern, but wounded pride. "You will remain in the West Wing," he said. "You are forbidden from entering the nursery or corresponding with Julian without my permission. Your school will also close until I determine whether your methods are suitable for children." A murmur moved through the servants. Helena's school employed 4 widows and educated 43 children. Closing it would not merely punish her, it would deprive an entire village of the only opportunity its daughters had ever been given. "You would destroy their future to discipline your wife? I would protect this family from your influence." Nathaniel handed the order to his steward, Mr. Crowley. His voice remained measured, almost courteous, making the cruelty worse. "Escort her grace to the West Wing." Helena did not resist. She would not give Beatrice the spectacle she wanted. As she passed beneath the nursery, another sequence sounded through the ceiling. 3 knocks. Pause. 2. This time Nathaniel looked up, yet he said nothing. Hours later, a young scullery maid named Clara entered Helena's room, carrying Julian's supper tray. The silver cover trembled in her hands. "Lady Beatrice ordered me to clear it away," she whispered. But Master Julian didn't touch anything. Helena lifted the cover. The pudding remained smooth except for a shallow depression near its edge. A silver medicine spoon lay beneath the bowl, its surface stained violet. She raised it carefully and smelled lavender. Beneath that sweetness was a bitter, unmistakable trace. Foxglove. Helena had studied medicinal plants while developing basic health lessons for her school. In controlled quantities, foxglove could be used by a knowledgeable physician. An excessive dose could slow the heart, confuse the mind, distort vision, and kill. Who gave this to him? Lady Beatrice brought the bottle herself. She said Dr. Wycliffe had ordered 2 spoonfuls. 2? Clara nodded. Master Julian knocked it away the first time. She told the nurse to hold his hands. Helena wrapped the spoon in her handkerchief. Where is the bottle now? Before Clara could answer, footsteps approached. The maid turned pale. Mr. Crowley entered without knocking. 2 footmen stood behind him, while Nathaniel's seal gleamed upon the order in his hand. Your Grace, the steward said, avoiding her eyes. His Grace has decided your presence is worsening the young heir's condition. Helena concealed the spoon within her sleeve. What has my husband ordered? Crowley swallowed. A carriage will be prepared at dawn. You are to leave Blackmere and reside at Greythorn House until further notice. Greythorn had been abandoned for 12 years. It stood nearly 50 miles away, beyond roads often made impassable by autumn rain. From there, Helena could neither reach Julian nor protect her school. She glanced at the dark window. Dawn was less than 6 hours away. Then another sound came from the corridor, a small body running, followed by Beatrice's furious shout. The door burst open. Julian stumbled into the room barefoot, his nightshirt stained with violet liquid. He reached Helena, clutched her skirts, and looked up with terror-clouded eyes. She said, "Father signed another paper," he gasped. She said, "Tomorrow I won't be your son anymore." Behind him, Lady Beatrice appeared with the empty medicine bottle in her hand. Beatrice stopped in the doorway, the empty medicine bottle glinting between her fingers. "Step away from him, Helena." Julian pressed his face into his mother's skirts. His small body trembled so violently that Helena could feel it through the fabric. "No," she said. The word was quiet, but everyone heard it. Mr. Crowley glanced toward the 2 footmen. Neither moved. Whatever authority the guardianship order had given Beatrice, Helena was still the Duchess of Blackmere, and the terrified child clinging to her was still her son. Beatrice lifted the bottle. Julian escaped before receiving his medicine. His behavior proves how desperately he needs it. Helena drew the stained spoon from her sleeve. Then explain why his nightshirt is covered with the same tonic you claim he never received. For the first time, Beatrice's confidence faltered. Only briefly. He knocked the bottle from the nurse's hand. "And why does it contain foxglove?" Clara gasped. Mr. Crowley looked sharply at Beatrice. "It contains what Dr. Wycliffe prescribed," Beatrice replied. "Are you accusing a respected physician of poisoning the future Duke of Blackmere? I am asking why a 6-year-old requires enough foxglove to stain an entire spoon violet." Beatrice crossed the room and seized Julian's arm. He screamed before she had even tightened her grip. Helena pushed her hand away. "Touch him again, and I will call every servant in this house to witness what you are doing. You no longer have authority over him. I do not require a document to stop you from hurting a child." Nathaniel's voice came from the corridor. "What is happening?" He entered wearing his evening coat, his expression hardened by irritation rather than alarm. Helena wondered who had summoned him, and what version of the scene he had been told to expect. Beatrice spoke first. "Julian broke out of the nursery. Helena has encouraged his defiance, and is now claiming that Dr. Wycliffe intends to poison him." "I made no such claim," Helena said. "I identified what is on this spoon." Nathaniel looked at it but did not take it. "You have no medical qualification. Neither does Beatrice. My physician prescribed the tonic." "Then summon him now and ask him to state the dosage before witnesses." A heavy silence settled over the room. Beatrice's thumb moved over the bottle's paper label. Helena noticed the gesture immediately. The label had been pasted crookedly, and one corner was already lifting from the glass. Nathaniel noticed only Julian. "Come here, son." Julian shook his head. "I said come here." The boy's fingers tightened around Helena's skirt. Nathaniel's face changed as the refusal wounded him in front of the servants. Beatrice lowered her voice. "You see, she has turned him against you." Helena knelt beside Julian. "Look at me," she said gently. "Did anyone tell you that your father wanted you to take the medicine?" Julian nodded. "Who?" His frightened gaze shifted toward Beatrice. "She said Papa wanted me quiet before the man came." Nathaniel frowned. "What man?" Julian's lips parted, but Beatrice interrupted. "Another invention. He has been telling stories for weeks." Helena kept her attention on her son. "What did the man look like?" "He had gray hair and a black ring." Mr. Crowley stiffened. Helena saw it. "You know him." The steward's face drained of color. "There was a visitor 3 nights ago. Lady Beatrice instructed me not to enter his name in the household register." "That is a lie!" Beatrice snapped. Crowley looked at Nathaniel. "She said the gentleman was conducting private business on your Grace's behalf." Nathaniel turned toward his sister. "Who was he?" "A solicitor." "For what business?" Beatrice's expression softened into calculated sorrow. I had hoped to spare you this until morning. She reached into her pocket and produced a folded paper bearing 2 seals. Julian's condition has raised questions about his ability to inherit. I sought advice about protecting Blackmere should his instability worsen. Helena rose slowly. He is 6 years old and already governed by hysterical fears. Fears that began after you took control of his nursery. Nathaniel took the document. His eyes moved across the page, then stopped. What is Edmund Vale's name doing here? Beatrice's hand tightened around the bottle. My late husband's cousin prepared an alternative succession petition. Edmund is of Blackmere blood through our mother. The petition would apply only if Julian were declared permanently incapable. Helena stared at Nathaniel. Is this the other paper Julian heard about? I have never seen it before. But you gave her the authority to prepare it. Nathaniel did not answer. That silence revealed enough. He had not intended to disinherit Julian. Yet his signature on the guardianship order had given Beatrice access to the boy, the physicians, and the private records needed to manufacture a claim of incapacity. His betrayal had opened the door. Beatrice had merely walked through it. Julian suddenly sagged against Helena. She caught him before he struck the floor. His skin felt cold. His pupils appeared strangely wide, and his pulse fluttered beneath her fingers with an irregular rhythm. Julian? Nathaniel stepped forward. Helena smelled lavender on the boy's breath. He swallowed some of it. Beatrice backed toward the door. That is impossible. Helena looked at Clara. Fetch warm water and charcoal from the schoolroom cabinet. Run. The maid fled. Crowley, send a rider for another physician. Not Dr. Wycliffe. Find Dr. Merritt in Fenwick. The steward hesitated and looked at Nathaniel. Do as she says, the Duke ordered. Helena lifted Julian onto the bed. His eyes struggled to focus on her face. Mama, he whispered. The bottle wasn't for me. Her hands stopped. Who was it for? Julian's lips barely moved. Aunt Beatrice said it was meant for father, but the man with the black ring told her I had seen too much. Across the room, the empty bottle slipped from Beatrice's hand and shattered on the floor. Nathaniel stared at his sister. Beatrice ran. Nathaniel reached the corridor as Beatrice disappeared around the corner. Stop her, he shouted. The footman ran after her, but Helena did not look up. Julian's pulse stumbled beneath her fingers. 2 rapid beats, a pause, then another weak flutter. Stay with me, darling. His eyelids trembled. Nathaniel returned to the room. What do you need? The truth would have been useful an hour ago. Helena, open the windows, then send someone to stop Dr. Wycliffe before he learns we have summoned another physician. Nathaniel obeyed without argument. Clara hurried back, carrying warm water, powdered charcoal, and the small medical case Helena kept for accidents at the school. Helena mixed the charcoal while speaking softly to Julian, persuading him to swallow a little at a time. He gagged, but she held him upright. That's it. One more sip. A commotion erupted downstairs. One of the footmen returned alone, breathing hard. Lady Beatrice took a horse from the east stable. She struck the groom with her crop and rode toward the north woods. Nathaniel's face went still. Send riders after her. Helena looked up. Alive, Nathaniel. She poisoned our son, and she may be the only person who knows exactly what he swallowed. Nathaniel issued the order. For once, his anger served Julian rather than his pride. The next hour passed in fragments. Julian vomiting into a porcelain basin, Clara replacing cold cloths, Nathaniel pacing near the window, and Helena counting every uncertain beat of her son's heart. Shortly before midnight, Dr. Merritt arrived with rain on his coat and mud to his knees. He examined Julian, smelled the spoon, and studied the violet residue beneath the candlelight. Foxglove is present, he confirmed, but it is not alone. Nathaniel moved closer. What else? Possibly belladonna. I cannot be certain without testing the remaining liquid. The bottle broke, Helena said. Some may remain between the floorboards. Dr. Merritt glanced at her stained sleeves. You acted quickly. The charcoal may have saved him. Nathaniel closed his eyes for a moment. Will he live? If his heartbeat steadies before dawn, his chances improve. He must not be left alone. I will remain with him, Helena said. Nathaniel nodded, as though granting permission. She met his gaze. I was not asking. He had no answer. While Dr. Merritt prepared another treatment, Helena examined the pieces of glass. Most bore traces of violet liquid, but one shard still held part of the label Beatrice had tried to conceal. Helena peeled it away with the point of a needle. A second label lay beneath it. The ink had blurred, yet 2 words remained legible. For his grace. Julian had told the truth. Nathaniel stared at the words. She meant to poison me. Perhaps, Helena said. Or she wanted us to believe she did. His expression sharpened. Why would she drug Julian if I was her target? To have him declared unstable, to remove me, to secure control of both the heir and the estate before the inheritance examiner arrives. Examiner? Helena reached into Julian's torn nightshirt. The child had hidden a folded scrap of paper inside the hem. It was part of a formal notice stamped with the royal clerk's seal. Nathaniel read it twice. The Crown's examiner would arrive in 6 days to review irregularities in Blackmere's succession records. I received no notice of this. Someone intercepted it. Nathaniel turned toward Mr. Crowley, who had returned with the writer's report. The steward looked shaken. All official correspondence passes through the East Office now. Helena knew who controlled that room. Beatrice. Search it, Nathaniel ordered. Bring me every letter, account book, and sealed packet inside. Crowley did not move. Your Grace, Lady Beatrice changed the lock last week. She said it was done on your instruction. I gave no such instruction. Helena removed the brass nursery key from the chain Beatrice had dropped during her escape. Its teeth were unusually narrow. This may open more than Julian's door. Nathaniel looked at her. Shame had begun to replace disbelief, though she felt no comfort in it. Recognition arriving after disaster was not wisdom. It was merely consequence. They left Clara and Dr. Merritt with Julian and crossed the darkened house together. At the East Office, Helena inserted the brass key. The lock turned. Inside, every drawer stood open. The hearth contained fresh ashes, and the room smelled of burned paper. Beatrice had destroyed whatever she could before fleeing. Yet haste had betrayed her. A ledger lay half hidden beneath the desk, its cover marked with the Blackmere crest. Helena opened it. Payments had been made to Dr. Wycliffe, a London solicitor named Silas Vane, and 3 witnesses willing to testify that Julian suffered violent fits. Each transaction carried Nathaniel's authorization. He stared at his own signature. I never approved these. Helena examined the strokes. The signatures are genuine. That is impossible. No. You signed blank expenditure orders for Beatrice, didn't you? Nathaniel's silence confirmed it. He had willingly handed his sister signed authority because reviewing household accounts bored him, and questioning Beatrice felt disloyal. She had used those signatures to finance the destruction of his wife and son. Helena turned another page. Her school funds had been transferred into an account controlled by Silas Vane. Beside the entry was an order to sell the school buildings after Julian's declaration of incapacity. Nathaniel gripped the desk. I will restore every penny. You still think money is the only thing you took from me? Before he could respond, a thud sounded inside the wall. Helena raised the candle. A narrow panel stood behind the curtain. The brass key opened that lock as well. A hidden passage led to the nursery. Halfway inside, they found Julian's missing nurse, Mrs. Finch, bound and gagged on the floor. She was alive, but barely conscious. Helena freed her hands. Mrs. Finch clutched Helena's wrist with desperate strength. Lady Beatrice didn't act alone, she rasped. The Duke's order was delivered by a man from London. Silas Vane? Helena asked. The nurse shook her head. He wore a black ring. He said the boy must be dead before the examiner arrives. A gunshot cracked through the house. Then Clara screamed from Julian's room. Helena ran before the echo faded. Nathaniel followed, shouting for the guards, but she had already entered the hidden passage. The narrow corridor forced her sideways between damp stone walls. Behind her, Mrs. Finch tried to call out a warning. The passage opens behind the nursery wardrobe. Another gunshot exploded overhead. Helena struck her shoulder against the panel and burst into Julian's room. Clara crouched beside the bed, shielding the child with her body. Dr. Merritt lay near the fireplace, blood spreading across his sleeve. A masked man stood at the open window with a pistol aimed at Julian. Helena threw the brass candlestick in her hand. It struck his wrist as he fired. The ball tore through the bed curtain instead of Julian. Nathaniel charged through the panel a moment later and drove the intruder against the window frame. They struggled for the pistol until Helena seized the water pitcher and shattered it across the man's temple. He collapsed. Nathaniel tore away the mask. Helena did not recognize the pale, narrow face beneath it, but Mr. Crowley did. Mr. Vane, he breathed from the doorway. The solicitor listed in Beatrice's ledger wore a black onyx ring. Nathaniel grabbed him by the collar. Who ordered you to kill my son? Vane smiled through bloodied teeth. The same man who will own Blackmere by this time next week. Nathaniel struck him once. Helena caught his arm before he could do it again. If you kill him, we lose the answers." Vane laughed. "You have already lost. Lady Beatrice carries the original succession petition, and 3 magistrates have been paid to accept it." Nathaniel ordered the guards to bind him and lock him in the cellar under constant watch. Only then did Helena turn toward Julian. Clara moved aside. The boy was conscious, though his skin remained gray and damp. He reached weakly for his mother. "Did they hurt you?" Helena knelt beside him. Even poisoned and terrified, he was afraid for her. "No. You warned us in time." Dr. Merritt had suffered only a graze, but the attack had scattered his medicines across the floor. He examined Julian again and found his pulse steadier. "He has survived the most dangerous hours," the physician said. "But he remains fragile. Moving him before sunrise could kill him." Nathaniel looked at Helena. "You are not leaving for Greythorn." She held his gaze. "I was never taking that carriage." The Duke flinched, perhaps realizing that the authority he had wielded so confidently hours earlier no longer meant anything to her. Mrs. Finch was brought into the nursery. After drinking warm water, she explained that Beatrice had dismissed her 3 nights earlier when she refused to increase Julian's tonic. Silas Vane had intercepted her before she could reach Helena and imprisoned her inside the passage. Dr. Wycliffe prepared the medicine, the nurse said, but Lady Beatrice changed the dosage herself. "Where is Wycliffe now?" Helena asked. Crowley lowered his eyes. "Gone. His housekeeper says he left Blackmere village before midnight." Beatrice had escaped. Wycliffe had vanished, and the original petition capable of stripping Julian's inheritance was traveling toward 3 corrupt magistrates. They could not wait for the royal examiner. Helena opened Beatrice's ledger again. Each payment carried a coded mark beside the recipient's name, a small crown divided by a diagonal line. She had seen it before, stamped into the red wax found beneath Julian's pillow. What family uses this symbol? Nathaniel studied it. No family. It belonged to the Northern Regency Society. Helena knew the name. The political society had publicly advocated restricting the crown's authority over hereditary estates. Its most influential member was Nathaniel's uncle, Lord Malcolm Ashcombe. If Julian were declared incapable and Beatrice's son installed as the presumptive heir, Blackmere's vast lands would pass under the control of those who supported the society. Nathaniel went pale. "My uncle recommended Vane to Beatrice, and you trusted both of them. I believed they wanted to protect the estate. They wanted to control it. You simply made their work easier." The truth hung between them. Nathaniel did not defend himself. Helena turned to Mrs. Finch. "Did Beatrice ever mention where she kept the original petition?" "She said it would be witnessed at St. Ormond's before being delivered to the county magistrates." St. Ormond's Abbey stood 15 miles north, the same direction Beatrice had ridden. Nathaniel reached for his coat. "I will take the guards." "No, my son's life is at stake, and Beatrice will expect you. She knows your temper and how easily you can be provoked into destroying evidence." His face tightened, but he could not deny it. Helena closed the ledger. "I will go. You cannot ride into an ambush alone." "I will not be alone. Crowley knows the estate roads, and Mrs. Finch can identify the witnesses. You will remain with Julian, and prove that protecting him matters more than chasing your sister." Nathaniel looked toward the bed. Julian's fingers were curled around Helena's discarded handkerchief. At last, the Duke nodded. Helena changed into a dark riding dress and concealed the stained medicine spoon inside her glove. Before leaving, she bent over Julian. "I will return before you wake." His eyes opened slightly. "The paper isn't at the Abbey," he whispered. Helena froze. "How do you know?" "I heard Aunt Beatrice tell the Black Ring man. She said St. Ormond's was where Papa would look. Then where did she take it?" Julian's gaze moved toward the broken wooden horse on the mantel. Inside its hollow body, Helena found a tiny strip of map marked with a single location: the abandoned schoolhouse on Blackmere's eastern boundary, her school. As she unfolded the map, orange light suddenly flared beyond the nursery windows. The eastern horizon was burning. Beatrice had set the school on fire. Helena was in the saddle within minutes. Crowley rode beside her while 4 estate guards followed along the eastern road. Behind them, Blackmere's bells rang the alarm, their heavy notes carrying across the sleeping villages. The glow intensified beyond the trees. "My records are inside that school," Helena said. "Enrollment lists, family accounts, letters from every parent, and the duplicate register proving the land was purchased with my marriage settlement." "If those documents burn," Crowley replied, "Lady Beatrice could claim the school belongs entirely to Blackmere. She could do worse. The cellars connect to the old estate tunnels. If Vane's men stored weapons or political documents there, they can blame me for them." They reached the hill above the school. Flames poured through the roof of the largest building. Villagers formed a line between the well and the burning cottages, passing buckets hand to hand. Helena's teachers were already leading frightened children away from the smoke. A widow named Mrs. Bell saw Helena and ran toward her. "Your Grace!" Two men came with an order bearing the Duke's seal. They told us to leave before midnight. When we refused, they barred the rear doors. Helena's stomach turned. Were any children inside? 3 boarders are missing. Helena dismounted before the horse stopped moving. Crowley caught her sleeve. "The roof may collapse. Then help me find another entrance." The front doorway was engulfed, but Helena knew every inch of the buildings she had restored. She led Crowley around the western wall to a narrow coal hatch. Smoke rolled through it as one of the guards broke the rusted lock. Helena crawled inside. The heat struck like an open furnace. She wrapped a wet cloth over her mouth and moved through the cellar on her hands and knees. A child coughed in the darkness. "This way," Helena called. "Follow my voice." She found 12-year-old Thomas shielding 2 younger girls beneath a heavy table. Helena guided them toward the hatch, but Thomas pulled away. "There's another man in the records room." "Who?" "I don't know. He was looking for a red box." Crowley took the girls. Helena continued alone. The staircase groaned beneath her boots. In the corridor above, curtains burned against the walls, and sparks drifted through the smoke. She reached the records room as part of the ceiling collapsed behind her. A man lay near the desk, with a fallen beam across his legs. Dr. Wycliffe. He stared at Helena in disbelief. "You were supposed to be at Greythorn." She knelt beside the beam. "Where is Beatrice? Help me first. The roof is failing. Answer me." She took the petition to Ashcombe Hall. "Lord Malcolm intends to present it to the magistrates tomorrow." Helena pushed against the beam, but could not lift it alone. "What is in the red box?" Wycliffe's face twisted. "Evidence that will hang all of us." Helena shouted for Crowley. Together they freed the physician and dragged him toward the stairs. Before following, Helena saw a red metal box beneath the desk. She seized it. They escaped through the cellar as the school roof collapsed. A roar of sparks rose into the sky, and the villagers cried out. Helena stood in the mud, holding the box against her chest. 7 years of labor burned before her, but all 3 children were alive. Wycliffe lay nearby, coughing violently. 2 guards restrained him while Helena opened the box with the brass nursery key. Inside were medical records bearing Julian's name. The earliest entry was dated 3 months before Beatrice had returned to Blackmere. Nathaniel's uncle had been planning the boy's removal long before Beatrice gained access to the nursery. There were also letters between Lord Malcolm and Dr. Wycliffe, describing small doses of foxglove and belladonna, designed to produce confusion, fainting, and irregular behavior. The final page authorized a fatal dose to be administered after Julian was declared incapable. Wycliffe looked at the flames. "You do not understand. Lord Malcolm threatened my family. Yet you prepared the poison. I reduced the dosage whenever I could. You still placed it in a child's medicine." Helena handed the letters to Crowley. "Guard these with your life." A rider approached from Blackmere at full speed. He slid from the saddle, nearly falling. "Your Grace, the prisoner has escaped." "Vane?" "Yes. Someone killed the guard outside the cellar and released him." Helena looked toward Wycliffe. The physician began trembling. "He will come for the box," he whispered. "Then you will testify before he reaches us." Wycliffe shook his head. "My testimony will not matter if Lord Malcolm has the original petition. Once 3 magistrates sign it, Julian can be removed from Blackmere before the royal examiner arrives." Helena turned to Crowley. "How far is Ashcombe Hall?" 2 hours by the main road." "The forest route?" "Faster, but dangerous at night." Another sound rose above the crackling ruins. The rapid approach of several horses. Helena expected more estate guards. Instead, Beatrice emerged from the darkness with Silas Vane and 6 armed men. Her riding cloak was torn, and blood marked one side of her face. She aimed a pistol at Helena. "Give me the red box." The villagers stopped passing buckets. Some held axes, shovels, and iron tools. Helena stepped between Beatrice and the rescued children. "You burned a school with children inside. I ordered the building emptied. You barred the doors." Vane raised his own pistol. "The box, Your Grace, or the physician dies first." Wycliffe stared at the weapon, then at Helena. "I will testify," he said suddenly. "Lord Malcolm ordered everything. The false diagnosis, the forged petition, the poison, all of it." Vane fired. Wycliffe jerked backward and fell into the mud. Chaos erupted. The villagers rushed forward as the guards drew their weapons. Crowley pulled Helena behind the stone well, while another shot struck its rim. Through the smoke, Helena saw Beatrice seize the red box from the ground and mount her horse. She rode north toward Ashcombe Hall. Helena ran to Wycliffe. Blood spread beneath him, but his eyes remained open. He caught her wrist and pressed something into her palm. A small iron seal engraved with the divided crown. "The petition is false," he gasped. "Edmund Vale is not Beatrice's son." Helena bent closer. "Then whose child is he?" Wycliffe struggled for one final breath. "Lord Malcolm's." Wycliffe's hand fell from Helena's wrist. She closed his eyes, then rose with the iron seal clenched in her palm. Beatrice and Vane were already disappearing through the smoke. Crowley's guards attempted to follow, but two armed men blocked the road long enough for the fugitives to escape. Helena turned to the villagers. "Keep the physician's body under watch. No one touches his papers." Crowley stared north. "Beatrice will reach Ashcombe Hall before us. Not if she believes she has already won." Helena opened Wycliffe's medical case. Beneath the instruments lay blank prescription sheets bearing his signature. She wrote a short message claiming that the red box contained only copies, and that the original evidence had been sent to the royal examiner. She handed it to Thomas, the boy she had rescued. "Can you ride to the North Crossroads?" "Yes, Your Grace." "Let Beatrice's men see you. Drop this message, then return by the mill road. Do not allow them to catch you." Thomas nodded and mounted a pony. Crowley understood. They will divide their men to intercept the examiner and weaken Ashcombe Hall. Helena looked at the burned school. She wanted to remain with the teachers and families who had lost everything. But Julian's inheritance, and possibly his life, depended upon what happened before the magistrates signed the petition. They rode through the forest. Near dawn, Ashcombe Hall appeared beyond a stone wall. Light burned in the library windows, and 3 carriages waited outside. "The magistrates are already here," Crowley said. Helena entered through the servants' passage she remembered from family visits. Crowley and 2 guards followed, while the others watched the horses. Voices came from the library. Lord Malcolm stood before 3 county magistrates. He was a broad, silver-haired man whose calm authority had made Nathaniel trust him since childhood. Beatrice stood beside him, holding the red box. Vane was nowhere in sight. A boy of about 9 sat near the fireplace. Edmund Vale. Lord Malcolm placed the succession petition on the table. The Duke's son has been poisoned by his own mother. His instability is now undeniable. For Blackmere's protection, Edmund must be recognized as the nearest capable male relation. Helena stepped into the room. "Then perhaps you should explain whose son Edmund truly is." Everyone turned. Beatrice's face hardened. "You should be 50 miles away. You tried to arrange that." Lord Malcolm smiled faintly. "Helena, this is a legal proceeding. You have no standing after Nathaniel removed you as Julian's guardian." Helena placed Wycliffe's divided crown seal on the table. The magistrates exchanged uneasy glances. "Dr. Wycliffe confessed before witnesses," she said. "He named Lord Malcolm as the architect of the false diagnosis, the poisoning, and the succession fraud. A dying criminal's accusation proves nothing. Then let us examine the petition." Helena moved closer. Beatrice reached for the document, but one magistrate stopped her. The signature declaring Julian incapable belonged to Dr. Wycliffe. Helena compared it with the prescription sheets from his case. "At first glance, they match," she said. But Wycliffe was left-handed. His genuine signatures rise toward the right because his hand pushed the pen. This one falls sharply downward. It was copied by a right-handed writer. She turned toward Beatrice. Ink stained the side of Beatrice's right middle finger. Lord Malcolm's composure cracked. The eldest magistrate lifted the petition. "Until this discrepancy is investigated, we cannot approve it." "You will sign," Malcolm said. The library doors opened. Vane entered with 4 armed men, and Nathaniel beside him, his hands bound. Helena's heart dropped. Blood marked Nathaniel's temple, but he remained upright. Vane pressed a pistol against his back. "His Grace has reconsidered." Malcolm placed a fresh document before Nathaniel. "Sign a declaration accusing your wife of poisoning Julian and conspiring to steal Blackmere. The magistrates will recognize Edmund, and your son may be allowed to live." Nathaniel looked at Helena. Only hours earlier, he had signed away her rights, because trusting his sister was easier than listening to his wife. Now the same people demanded another signature. Malcolm put the pen into his hand. Nathaniel took it. Beatrice smiled. Then he snapped the pen in half. "No." Vane struck him to his knees. Nathaniel lifted his head. I signed the order that gave Beatrice access to my son. I signed blank accounts that funded this conspiracy. Those crimes are mine to answer for, but I will not condemn my wife to escape them." Malcolm's expression turned cold. "Then watch her die first." Vane swung the pistol toward Helena. Before he could fire, Edmund Vale leaped from his chair and bit his wrist. The shot struck the chandelier chain. Glass and flame crashed into the room. In the confusion, Beatrice seized the forged petition and ran toward the terrace. Helena followed her through the shattered doors. At the cliff path beyond the garden, Beatrice stopped with the document held over a deep ravine. "One step closer," she said, "and the only proof of your son's inheritance disappears." Helena looked beyond her. Silas Vane had emerged from the smoke with his pistol raised, not at Helena, but at Beatrice. She had outlived her usefulness. Beatrice saw the warning in Helena's face and turned. Vane fired. Helena struck Beatrice's arm, pulling her aside as the ball grazed her shoulder. The forged petition slipped from her hand and landed near the ravine's edge. Beatrice stared at the blood spreading across her sleeve. "You saved me. I need your testimony." Vane raised the pistol again, but Crowley emerged from the garden and tackled him. They crashed against the stone balustrade. Vane reached for a knife. Crowley drove his fist into the solicitor's jaw, and both men rolled dangerously close to the drop. Helena ran toward the petition. Wind lifted one corner. She caught it just before it vanished over the cliff. Behind her, Vane broke free and lunged for the document. Beatrice seized his coat, but he struck her to the ground. "You were never meant to become guardian," he snarled. "You were meant to take the blame." He reached Helena. Nathaniel appeared through the smoke and slammed into him. Still partially bound, the Duke could not defend himself properly. Vane drew his knife and drove Nathaniel backward toward the ravine. Helena snatched a broken branch from the path and struck Vane's wounded wrist. The knife fell. Crowley restrained him while the estate guards arrived. Nathaniel sank to one knee, breathing hard. Helena cut the ropes around his wrists, but offered no comfort. He had finally acted correctly, yet one brave moment could not erase months of deliberate blindness. Beatrice sat against the wall, pressing a hand to her bleeding shoulder. "Malcolm promised Edmund would inherit," she whispered. "He said Julian would be sent abroad after being declared incapable." "You knew Julian was being drugged," Helena said. "I thought the doses only made him appear confused." "You watched him beg." Beatrice lowered her eyes. Helena unfolded the petition. "Why did Malcolm choose Edmund?" Beatrice looked toward the boy standing inside the shattered library doors. "Because Edmund is his son." She confessed that Lord Malcolm had fathered Edmund during her unhappy marriage. After her husband died, Malcolm threatened to expose the boy's illegitimacy unless she helped place him in Blackmere's succession. He needed control of the estate's northern ports for the Regency Society's weapons shipments. "But Malcolm never intended to protect either of you," Helena said. Beatrice's gaze moved to Vane. The truth finally reached her. After signing the petition, she and Edmund would have become liabilities. Inside, Lord Malcolm attempted to escape through the servants' corridor. Mrs. Bell and several villagers blocked his path. Their clothes were blackened by the school fire, and they carried the tools used to rescue the children. The eldest magistrate stepped forward. "Lord Malcolm Ashcombe, you will remain here until the Crown's examiner arrives." Malcolm laughed. "On whose authority?" "Mine," Nathaniel said. Helena faced him. "Your authority created this disaster. It cannot be the only authority that ends it." Nathaniel absorbed the rebuke, then turned to the magistrates. "My wife is correct. Seal the house, preserve every document, and record testimony from the villagers. Mrs. Finch, Dr. Merritt, and Lady Beatrice. Nothing will be handled privately." That was the first meaningful surrender of power Helena had seen from him. She handed the petition to the eldest magistrate. "Make 3 copies. Each witness will sign across the margins." As dawn reached the windows, Edmund approached Helena. "Will they send me away?" She knelt before him. "You are not responsible for what the adults around you did." Beatrice began to cry silently. A rider suddenly arrived, bearing Blackmere's crest. He entered the library and bowed to Helena rather than Nathaniel. "Your Grace, Master Julian is awake, but armed men surrounded Blackmere after you left. They claim to carry a royal warrant ordering the boy's immediate removal." Malcolm smiled from across the room. "The examiner," he said, "was never coming to save Julian." Helena crossed the library before Malcolm's smile had faded. "Who leads the men at Blackmere?" The rider struggled for breath. "Colonel Harcourt. He says Master Julian must be taken into Crown custody before noon." Nathaniel's face changed. Harcourt belongs to the Northern Regency Society. He also commands 2 companies of militia, Crowley said. If we oppose him by force, he will call it rebellion. Malcolm leaned back against the desk, satisfied. The Crown's examiner will find Blackmere occupied, the heir removed, and the Duke accused of treason. You cannot prevent all 3. Helena looked at the clock. They had fewer than 4 hours. She took the iron seal from her pocket and pressed it beside the mark on Malcolm's letters. They matched perfectly. The divided crown is not merely the society's symbol, she said. It identifies its orders. The eldest magistrate examined the letters. These authorize shipments through Blackmere's northern ports. Shipments purchased with money stolen from my school, Helena said. Colonel Harcourt cannot allow the royal examiner to discover them. Nathaniel turned to Malcolm. The removal warrant is false. False documents become truth when enough powerful men accept them. Helena gathered the medical records, the forged petition, and Wycliffe's letters into a leather case. Then we will put the evidence before witnesses more powerful than Harcourt. The magistrates agreed to accompany them. Beatrice, her shoulder bandaged, was placed in a guarded carriage with Edmund. Malcolm and Vane traveled separately under restraint. They reached Blackmere shortly before 10. Armed militia surrounded the house. Servants and villagers stood outside the gates, refusing to move, despite the rifles aimed toward them. Mrs. Finch watched from an upper window, holding Julian in her arms. Colonel Harcourt rode forward. His red uniform was immaculate. Duke of Blackmere, you are accused of concealing an unstable heir and obstructing a lawful succession inquiry. Surrender the boy. Nathaniel began to answer, but Helena stepped ahead of him. Show us the warrant. Harcourt unfolded a document carrying the royal seal. Helena studied it without touching it. The seal appears genuine. It is genuine, Malcolm called from the guarded carriage. Helena ignored him. But this warrant names my son as Julian Arthur Blackmere. Harcourt frowned. That is his name. No, his legal name is Julian Edmund Nathaniel Ashcombe. Blackmere is his father's title, not his surname. A murmur passed through the militia. The Crown's clerks would not make that error, Helena continued. But Lady Beatrice repeatedly called him Julian Blackmere in the false medical records. Harcourt's hand moved toward his sword. Nathaniel raised his voice. Any soldier who obeys a forged warrant after hearing this objection may answer before a royal court. Several militiamen lowered their weapons. Harcourt drew his pistol. Take the house. No one moved. Then Vane broke from his guard, seized the reins of Malcolm's carriage, and drove it toward the gates. Harcourt's men scattered as the horses charged through. Malcolm leaped free and ran toward the northern wing. The estate records, Helena said. Nathaniel pursued his uncle while Crowley and the villagers restrained Vane. Helena entered by the western doors and climbed toward Julian. She found him awake but weak. Dr. Merritt sat beside the bed, his wounded arm in a sling. Mama, Julian reached for her. She gathered him carefully against her. No one is taking you. A shot sounded downstairs. Mrs. Finch locked the nursery while Helena crossed to the window. In the courtyard, Harcourt was forcing his way through the servants with 3 loyal soldiers. Dr. Merritt lifted the bed curtain. There is another way out. The hidden passage led from the nursery to the east office and continued beneath the estate chapel. Helena wrapped Julian in a blanket and carried him into the darkness. Halfway down the stairs, they heard footsteps ahead. Beatrice appeared with Edmund. I know where Malcolm is going, she whispered. There is a vault beneath the chapel containing the society's membership list. If he burns it, Harcourt can claim he acted alone. Helena studied her. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, but Edmund deserves a chance to live without Malcolm controlling him. They descended together. The vault door stood open. Inside, Nathaniel struggled with Malcolm beside a burning brazier. Papers already curled in the flames. Helena placed Julian in Mrs. Finch's arms and rushed toward the brazier. She pulled the documents free with an iron poker, while Beatrice emptied a bucket of chapel water over them. Malcolm struck Nathaniel with a brass cross and ran for the tunnel, but Edmund stepped into his path. You said you were my father, the boy said. You never said I was only your weapon. Malcolm shoved him aside. Beatrice caught Edmund, and Nathaniel tackled his uncle before he reached the exit. Above them, the chapel bell began to ring. Once, twice, then continuously. The signal that royal officers had arrived at the estate. Helena carried the scorched membership list into the courtyard. A black carriage bearing the king's arms had stopped beyond the militia line. A gray-haired examiner descended, accompanied by royal guards. Colonel Harcourt immediately pointed toward Helena. That woman poisoned the heir, and forged evidence against loyal servants of the crown. The examiner looked at Julian in her arms, then at the armed militia surrounding the house. "I received the same accusation 3 days ago," he said. It was signed by the Duke of Blackmere. Every face turned toward Nathaniel. The signature on the letter appeared unmistakably his. Nathaniel accepted the letter from the royal examiner. The signature was his. So was the black wax seal pressed beneath it. "I did not write this," he said. Colonel Harcourt gave a contemptuous laugh. "Convenient." Helena held out her hand. Nathaniel passed her the letter without protest. She examined the paper, the folding marks, and the angle of the signature. Unlike the forged petition, the handwriting was genuine. "When did you last sign blank correspondence?" she asked. Nathaniel looked toward the East Office. 6 weeks ago. Beatrice said household suppliers required urgent authorization while I was in London." Beatrice's face crumpled. "Malcolm gave me 12 blank sheets. He told me they were for school expenses and physicians." "You knew Nathaniel's signature would be used," Helena said. "I did not know what Malcolm intended to write above it. But you knew Nathaniel had not read the papers." Beatrice lowered her eyes. "Yes." The examiner took back the letter. "A blank signature does not absolve the man who provided it." "No," Nathaniel said. "It does not." Helena looked at him. This time he did not blame Beatrice, manipulation, or the burdens of his title. He stood before his tenants, servants, wife, and son, and accepted responsibility. But Harcourt still controlled armed men, and the examiner had not yet seen enough to determine who had committed treason. "Bring everyone into the great hall," Helena said. "The witnesses, the magistrates, the prisoners, and the documents." Harcourt objected. "You do not command a royal inquiry." The examiner studied her smoke-blackened dress and the child in her arms. "Today, I believe the Duchess has earned the right to speak." The great hall filled quickly. Julian sat beside Dr. Merritt, wrapped in a blanket. Mrs. Finch remained behind him. The rescued schoolchildren and their parents stood along the walls, while royal guards separated Harcourt's militia from Malcolm, Vane, and Beatrice. Helena arranged the evidence in order. First came the guardianship document by which Nathaniel had transferred Julian's care to Beatrice. Next came the blank expenditure orders, the stolen school funds, and payments to Wycliffe and Vane. Then came Julian's medical records, the violet-stained spoon, and the concealed bottle label reading, "For His Grace." Dr. Merritt testified that Julian had received foxglove and belladonna. Mrs. Finch described Beatrice increasing the dosage and Vane imprisoning her when she refused to cooperate. The magistrates presented the false incapacity petition. Finally, Helena unfolded the scorched membership list recovered beneath the chapel. Colonel Harcourt's name appeared near the top. He drew his sword. Royal guards surrounded him before he could move. "This list proves nothing," Harcourt said. "Any name could have been added." Helena placed Wycliffe's iron seal beside the signatures. "Then explain why every secret order carries this mark, and why the same impression appears on the weapons invoices delivered through Blackmere's northern ports." The examiner compared the documents. Malcolm remained strangely calm. "All circumstantial," he said. "No living witness heard me order the child's death." Helena looked toward Wycliffe's medical case. The physician had died before giving formal testimony. Vane would deny everything. Beatrice's word could be dismissed as that of an accomplice seeking mercy. Then Julian rose from his chair. I heard him. The hall fell silent. Helena went to him. "You do not have to speak." "Yes, I do." Julian faced the examiner. "Lord Malcolm came through the hidden passage. He told Aunt Beatrice the medicine must make me seem mad. Then he told the man with the black ring that I must die before you arrived." Malcolm smiled thinly, a frightened child repeating his mother's stories. Julian's hands shook, but he did not sit. He said no one would believe me because Papa had already chosen Aunt Beatrice. Nathaniel closed his eyes. That was the deepest consequence of his betrayal. Malcolm's scheme had depended upon Julian knowing his father would not listen. Helena knelt beside her son. "Did you see anything else?" Julian nodded. "He put papers inside my wooden horse because he heard Papa coming. Later, I took one out and hid it in my nightshirt." The broken horse was brought from the nursery. Helena examined its hollow body again. Her fingers found a false inner panel she had missed. Inside lay a folded letter. It bore Lord Malcolm's handwriting and instructed Harcourt to remove Julian after the final dose, kill Wycliffe and Vane, and blame Helena for poisoning her son. At the bottom, Malcolm had written that Nathaniel's pride made him more useful than any paid accomplice. The examiner read the letter aloud. Harcourt lunged toward the nearest window. Royal guards seized him. Malcolm's composure finally broke. "That paper was stolen. Then you admit it is yours," Helena said. He realized his mistake too late. The examiner ordered Malcolm, Harcourt, and Vane placed under royal arrest. Beatrice was confined separately, pending her testimony. Every militia weapon was surrendered. Julian's name was cleared before the assembled witnesses, but Helena was not finished. She turned toward Nathaniel. "The conspiracy has been exposed. Now the harm you caused must also be answered." Nathaniel stepped into the center of the hall. "I know." He removed the ducal signet from his hand and placed it on the table before her. "Tomorrow, before the full county court, I will name every wrong I committed against you and Julian. I will restore your school from my private fortune, revoke Beatrice's guardianship, and place Julian's care under your sole authority." Helena did not touch the ring. "Material repair is necessary. It is not forgiveness." "I understand. And after the court, Julian and I will decide whether we remain at Blackmere." Pain crossed Nathaniel's face, but he bowed his head. "The choice will be yours." The royal examiner rose. "Then tomorrow's hearing will address not only treason, but the legal restoration of the Duchess and her son." As the hall emptied, Helena noticed Beatrice staring at the scorched membership list. One name near the bottom had been scratched away. Beatrice leaned close to Helena. "Malcolm was not the leader," she whispered, "and the person whose name he erased is already inside this house." Helena did not react to Beatrice's warning. "Whose name was erased?" Beatrice looked toward the royal examiner. "Sir Alistair Crane." The examiner stood near the fireplace, speaking quietly with two royal guards. He appeared composed, but Helena noticed his right hand close around the head of his cane. "He recruited Malcolm into the Northern Regency Society," Beatrice continued. "The others wanted political influence. Crane wanted estates whose owners could be declared disloyal or incapable." Helena understood. Crane had not come to rescue Julian. He had come to control the evidence, arrest his expendable accomplices, and present himself as the crown's loyal servant. "Why tell me now? Because once Malcolm is silenced, Crane will kill Edmund and me." Helena approached Nathaniel and spoke beneath the noise. "Do you trust me?" He looked at her with painful recognition. "I should have answered yes long ago." "Then do exactly what I say." Helena announced that Julian was too weak to endure another inquiry and asked that the hearing be delayed. Crane refused. "The king requires an immediate conclusion." "Then perhaps the king should hear the evidence personally." Crane's expression remained pleasant. "That will not be necessary." Helena lifted the scorched membership list. "Because your name is missing?" The hall fell silent. Crane tapped his cane once against the floor. A desperate accusation from a confessed conspirator. Beatrice stepped forward. "You ordered Malcolm to seize Blackmere's ports." Crane turned to the guards. "Arrest her." They moved, but Nathaniel blocked them. "No one leaves until the examiner's cane is searched." Crane's calm finally fractured. He drew a narrow blade from the cane and seized Julian. Helena caught his wrist before the blade reached the boy. Nathaniel pulled Julian free, while Crowley and the county magistrates restrained Crane's guards. The cane broke against the table. A roll of miniature documents spilled from its hollow shaft. Coded instructions, payments to Harcourt, and a list of aristocratic heirs marked for removal. Each carried Crane's private seal. The eldest magistrate examined the papers. "These are written in your hand." Crane attempted to deny it, but Malcolm laughed bitterly. "He promised us protection. Instead, he came to bury us." Before noon, loyal royal officers from the neighboring county arrived. Crane, Malcolm, Harcourt, and Vane were taken to London to face charges of treason, attempted murder, fraud, and unlawful arms trafficking. Their property was seized pending judgment. Beatrice confessed publicly to drugging Julian, forging medical reports, burning Helena's school, and helping alter the succession records. Her testimony spared her from the harshest sentence, but she lost her fortune, her social standing, and all authority over Edmund. The boy was placed with a respectable maternal aunt and permitted to visit Helena's school once it reopened. The county hearing began that afternoon. Nathaniel stood before the magistrates, tenants, servants, teachers, and parents whose lives his choices had endangered. "My wife warned me," he said. "I dismissed her because believing my sister protected my pride. I removed Helena from our son, closed the school she built, signed away authority I was too careless to govern, and allowed my name to finance crimes against my family and estate." He revoked the guardianship order and publicly restored Helena's reputation. Julian's inheritance was confirmed. with Helena appointed sole guardian of his person and education. Nathaniel transferred the eastern lands permanently into a trust controlled by Helena. His private fortune would rebuild the school and compensate every family harmed by the fire. He also surrendered management of Blackmere until an independent council completed a full investigation. When the hearing ended, he approached Helena without the ducal signet. "I do not ask you to forgive me. That is the first fair thing you have asked of me in months. I loved you," he said, "but I trusted my pride more than your judgment. Whatever remains between us, I destroyed the right to decide it alone." Helena looked toward Julian, who waited beside the carriage with his repaired wooden horse. "We are leaving Blackmere." Nathaniel's face tightened, but he nodded. "Where will you go?" "To Greythorn." The abandoned house intended as her prison had been included in her marriage settlement. Helena would restore it as a residence and rebuild her school on its surrounding land. "May I write to Julian, if he wishes to receive your letters? And to you?" "Not yet." Nathaniel bowed. He made no attempt to stop her. Weeks later, Helena stood before the new schoolhouse at Greythorn. Julian placed the brass nursery key, the symbol of the authority once stolen from her, into her hand. Helena did not lock a door with it. She opened one. Children entered the bright classroom while Julian held it wide. Across the road, Nathaniel watched from a distance, after delivering the first shipment of books he had purchased, without asking for recognition. Helena saw him, but she made no promise. Her future would not be decided by his remorse, his title, or the expectations of society. She stepped inside with her son and closed the door only after every child had safely crossed the threshold.